called ancient architecture in India. Let's see. The topic that we're going to discuss today is ancient architecture in India. This is our lesson today, and let's see what is ancient architecture in India, how architecture came into existence, and what kind of advancements that we have seen, that we have witnessed. And if I'm not mistaken, most of the times when we visit Hindu temples, we're going to see beautiful architecture on them. The temples and as well as when you go to inside of the temple, and you're going to see the walls were actually inscribed and sculpted with a beautiful architecture. So all this come because of one kingdom. So who's that kingdom? And let's see and discuss this lesson in detail. And in detail doesn't mean that here I'm going to give you the synopsis of the lesson now, and we're going to see more in detail, line by line discussion we'll be having after this video, right? Means it continues there itself. And here I'm going to give you the only synopsis of the lesson, right? Let's see. An important phase actually begin during begin with the Mauryan period. So Mauryans are the people who actually introduced this architecture in our India. And if I'm not mistaken, Megasthenes is the person who actually spoke about how the architecture came into existence, and with whom actually it came into existence has been explained everything in that book, which is written by Megasthenes. Megasthenes is a person, he is a Greek ambassador for Seleucus Nicator. This is one of the areas which actually worked underneath of this person, Alexander the Great. So he's the person who actually visited Mauryan court, and when he visited, he was astonished on seeing Chandragupta Maurya's palace. Why he was astonished, and what actually made him to go like that? So because the entire palace is actually carved out of wood, or it's not that much easier. So and even carving the entire palace with wood is a great achievement. So he is the person who actually mentioned about Chandragupta Maurya's palace in his book, which he has written. And later, and these Mauryans actually gave the initiation for this architecture, and later periods it actually got flourished like anything. And secondly, if you observe during the reign of Ashoka, we can see the significant advancements in when it comes to the architecture. And if I'm not mistaken, these Mauryans architecture imbibed the influence of Greeks and as well as Persians. And monolithics were erected on which the Dhammas were written. What is Dhamma? And what actually they speak about, we'll discuss in detail in the class, in the coming class. And what happened during the reign of Ashoka? Because as I told you, the significant advancements were actually taken place. What are these significant advancements that were taken during his period? Is this the capital of Sarnath pillar has been accepted as our emblem of Indian Republic. What we are actually using, the line symbols, were actually erected during the reign of this Ashoka. And each pillar was about 50 tons and is about 50 feet high. That is how these pillars were look like. See here, whenever we see our Indian symbol, the emblem, so we feel it as proud. So because that is how they actually made. That is how actually they sculpted those monolithics. So during the reign of Ashoka, monolithics became very popular. Monolithic architecture became very popular, and later the building of, and later if you keep on observing, in architecture there were too many significances came into existence. Too many styles came into existence. So what are these styles? Let's see. We're going to discuss the styles. When it comes to the styles, we're going to have three styles. One is Gandhara style, and second one is here Amravati School of Art and Architecture, and third style is here Mathura School of Art and Architecture. Mainly, if you observe these Gandhara art, if you observe the blending the blending of Greek and Indian art subsequently led to the development of Gandhara art. The other schools, as I have told you, Amravati and as well as Mathura schools. And let's see the importance of this Mathura school and Gandhara art and as well as Amravati school. In the examination, they'll ask you these questions only. These questions will be asked. What is the difference? What is the difference between Gandhara and as well as Amravati School of Art and Architecture? Or else they may ask you to distinguish what are the distinguishes that you can see amongst these things. What Amravati School and as well as this one, Mathura School and Gandhara art. The important features of this Gandhara art, if you observe Gandhara art, the speciality of this Gandhara art is this. Uh, whenever they make a statue, they are just like lifelike statues. So what they actually make, the lifelike statues of Buddha and as well as the Bodhisattvas were actually made in likeness of Greek gods. As I have told you, the blending of Greek and Indian art, which actually led to the development of Gandhara art. So the Gandhara art speciality is here. Whenever you see an idol, you never feel that the idol might be a lifeless statue or the lifeless idol. Mostly, as we are talking about Buddha, whenever you see Buddha and he is in the position of meditation position. So every time he sits like this and he meditates something. But what we feel on seeing his statue is this. We never think that it may be a statue. We feel that the person is sitting before us and he is meditating something. That is the speciality of this Gandhara art. That is how they actually make. And when it comes to Amravati School, and this was actually developed, Amravati School of Art and Architecture, this was actually no, developed by Satavahanas, who ruled Andhra region. So under the patronage of these people, Amravati School of Arts and Architecture came into existence. The specialty of these Amravati Arts and Architecture, if I'm not mistaken, consider this is the picture, this is the statue, and underneath you'll be having a support, the pillar, so or the basement. So this basement is going to have, example, assume this is how the statues are actually made. So assume this is the statue and this is the base. So here, the base is actually what is the specialty of these Amravati school? Um, they actually have a bas relief. This one is called as bas relief, and they're going to carve a medallion in the center of this base, and you're going to have the entire area is going to be decorated with the panels in a different designs. That is the main specialty of this Amravati School of Art and Architecture. And when it comes to Mathura School of Art and Architecture, uh, they actually use red stone, red spotted stone. The entire statue is going to be in red color. So if you ever happen to see any red colored stone architecture, you take it for granted that will be done by, or that is actually done by, or that is actually sculpted by Mathura School and Art and Architecture. And if you happen to see the bas relief, if you happen to see the bas relief under this statue with a medallion and as well as decorative panels and a bas relief, you take it for granted that is actually made of Amravati school. The specialty of this, let's see the more about this Mathura School of Art. So as I have told you, they actually choose whenever they wanted to sculpt a statue, they go for red stone statues. And the specialty of this one, you're going to have a spiritual look in them. You're not going to see, okay, this is a statue, okay, this is the statue of somebody. You never ever come to a conclusion like that. You'll be having, they're going to give, what do you call that, spiritual look. For example, these days, we people are, our Indians are celebrating Vinayaka Chauthi festival. So whenever you see the statue of Vinayaka, you never leave, or you never go, or you never cross that lane without, giving a namaskar, or you without praying. You won't cross that idol because you're going to have that spirituality. That is how they actually made. That is how they actually made those statues. and people on seeing to them, they worship, they offer something to their God. They imagine, they look, they look the God in that statues. That is the reason. That is the reason we actually pray to that, and we actually bow to that, and we actually make, sometimes even we make some vows, because they actually bring the spiritual look. So this type of whenever you happen to have this kind of feeling, that art, that architecture would comes under, will come under, will come under Mathura School of Art and Architecture. This is all just for your information. So that is the reason I took the example of that, example of the Vinayaka idol, right? Yeah. Our next one is here, cave architecture. No, sorry. After this Mathura School and as well as Amravati and Gandhara art, we're going to see how the architecture turned, how the architecture came, no, in different, in which way uh, this architecture developed it. So we're going to have three types of architectures. One is cave architecture, and second one is rock cut architecture, and third one is rock cut architecture or rock cut temples, and third one is here freestanding temples. How this cave architecture came into existence, and how this one rock cut temples were built, and as well as the freestanding temples were built. Let's see that. So this cave architecture is actually, it's an important phrase. It's an important phrase in Indian architecture. And the best example for cave architecture is Ajanta and as well as Ellora. So these are the one which actually standing as an example of cave architecture. And when it comes to Raka temples, Raka temples are nothing but the temples of these temples were hewn out of huge rocks. The best example for this one is Kailash temples at Ellora and Raka temples of Mahabalipuram. If you go there, you're going to see those temples were actually hewn out of big rocks, big rocks. So this is how the Raka temples were came into existence. And the third one is here. Where is that? Freestanding temples. Temple building activities began during Gupta's period, and later they flourished in the coming periods too. And if I'm not mistaken, in South India, Pallavas, Cholas, Mauryans, Hoselines, and as well as Vijayanagara kingdom, they gave very much importance to these freestanding temples. The best example for these freestanding temples were actually Shore Temple at Mahabalipuram, and Brihadishwara Temple at Thanjavur, and Sun Temple at which is located in Konar, and Dilwara temples at Rajasthan. So all of these were bearing the testimony of the building temple activities of the Indian subcontinent. So this is what is actually ancient architecture in India. So just now we discussed what kind of architecture that we had, and how they actually developed, who actually developed, and later what kind of different architectures that we have those days. So this is what is all about um, ancient architecture in India. And we're going to see, I'm going to show you what kind of, no, I'm going to show you how Gandhara art will be, and how Amravati School of Art and Architecture, and how this one, Mathura School of Art and Architecture, made their statues. And as well as we're going to have a deep discussion about cave architectures, and as well as rock cut temples and freestanding temples. So this is what we're going to see in the coming lesson, in the coming slide. Thank you so much.
Yeah, till now we have observed what the lesson is all about. I gave the gist of the lesson, and now we're going to see the lesson line by line, what actually the lesson talks about. And also the important thing that you have to understand that you the one who's supposed to know, identify the typical words that you're actually going after, and I'm going to ask you the meanings, and you're the one who's supposed to say. Okay, so I'll ask a word, and you're the one who's going to tell me what the word actually stands for, or what the word actually trying to convey in that context. Okay, right. um, Let's see what the lesson is all about. Right, an important phase of Indian architecture began with the Mauryan period. And the earlier then, till then, we have architecture, but that is not much impressive. People started constructing, and that's it. But when it comes to Mauryan period, they have a different style and different way of going. So that's the reason people have witnessed different types, or the actual existence, the actual what do you call that, the technology when it comes to the architecture. So that is the reason this period, in this period exclusively, in this period, the architecture actually came into existence more, and the skills were actually identified in different forms. So Mauryans are the one who actually gave much importance to the architecture. So that is the reason we call it's an important phase in Indian architecture. So in the Mauryan period. And next one, Megasthenes, the Greek ambassador of Seleucus Nicator, who visited the Mauryan court, described the Chandragupta Maurya's palace as an excellent architectural achievement. Megasthenes is the person who is actually all the way from Greek. He's actually not only he's a Greek ambassador, he's also one of the infantry general of Alexander. So he's a versatile person, as a spokesperson, and all the way he came from Greek to India, and he visited the court of Mauryan. So on seeing the architecture, on seeing the things inside which are actually sculpted, he was impressed. He impressed like anything. So that is the reason he's the person who actually boasted about Mauryan's architecture. And let's see. So what actually made him to appreciate, prize this architecture of Mauryan? Because as soon as he entered into the palace, he has noticed something, that the entire palace was carved out of wood. So the entire palace, obviously, normally when we enter into a room, or when we enter into a palace, we're going to notice the entire construction will be done by the cement and some sand. But here, Mauryans, I don't know how they actually constructed, but the inside designing is completely carved out of wood. So on that wood, they actually had different types of styles and figures, and some sort of fruits. That is how they actually sculpted. So this actually astonished Megasthenes. Next, Mauryan art and architecture imbibed the influence of the Persians and the Greeks. So where did they actually get this one? So well, how come this type of architecture levels have taken at the time of Mauryans? See, Mauryans are the people who has a lot of impact of Persians and as well as Greeks. Even if you go to Greek, or else you just Google, and you will come to know architectural styles of Greek, because they are the person who actually try to build their houses in different styles. If I'm not mistaken, if you watch English films, the war-based English films, you take it for granted, you're going to witness beautiful buildings. You're going to witness beautiful buildings and beautiful museums, beautiful amphitheaters, and everything is going to be very beautiful because the construction actually been made like that. So we can witness. So our Mauryans had the impact of these Greeks and even Persians too. Even they follow fantabulous styles when it comes to construction. And if I'm not mistaken, if you go to Kashmir, there you're going to find different styles of construction of houses. They follow different styles of architecture. So we, the people, supposed to be in the position to understand. The first thing is here: where did these people get this much impact when it comes to architecture, and how these people implemented in India is all just because of the impact that they had towards these Persians and as well as Greeks architecture. So in this slide, we understood that the Mauryan period actually started. The Indian architecture started at the time of Mauryan period, and later where we actually found how we actually came to know the architecture began at the time of Mauryan period. So because Megasthenes is a person who actually visited, And he actually told and written in his book about the Mauryan